tracking her mother's memories.
Always trying to survive, Mother gradually experienced many incredible things.
This has inspired a French-Vietnamese woman.
She never lost her hope. I could feel it deeply as I traced back her footsteps.
To begin a journey in which she searched for, pondered, and experienced strong emotions to finally write a book about her mother's quiet but incredible life.
'Cause mouths don't speak and ears don't want to hear, I write my words for open eyes, for hearts which, moved by my words, will feel. The words I wrote are about my mother.
From then on, Isabel Müller's journey back to Vietnam to track her mother's memories and her meaningful works began.
Hello and welcome to Talk Vietnam. Our guest today is the author of Loan from the Life of a Phoenix, the book shortlisted among top 5 of Kindle Storyteller Award 2015 in Germany and bestsellers on Amazon for 2 consecutive years. Her books on her mother's life and her own give readers strength, hope, positive energy, and courage to try for a better life. It encourages people to question life and themselves again and again, to conquer their own fears and believe in their dreams. And we are very honored to have her here today with us. Hello, Isabel, and welcome to Talk Vietnam.
Thank you for inviting me.
How are you today?
I'm doing very fine.
You look gorgeous in the outside outfit here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's very comfortable to wear.
I love outside too. And I know that you just came back from a trip to Dien Bien and Sơn La, 2 mountainous regions in the north, right?
Yes.
So what's the main purpose or the objective of this trip? Do you have a...
The main purpose is the word children. I want to give the poorest children of ethnic minorities a better access to education. Because many children do not have the opportunity. They don't even know what they can achieve in life. Many children do not even have access to books. They only have their school material, and this is it. They do not have the opportunity to read any kind of children's stories, to widen their horizon,
right,
or to discover new words, or to develop their fantasy. And so I think it is very necessary for them to know that there is another world, or that the world around us is much bigger than they think. And to give them better chances. For example, if we build a semi-boarding house, we want to give them a better chance to have a good time during the week when they stay at school, because some ways are very dangerous for these children. They have very long ways back home, and very often it happens that the roads or the small slopes are really too dangerous for them. And I want them to have a safer life, nicer living conditions, and better learning conditions.
Right.
This is the main purpose.
Yeah. So you established the Loan Foundation,
yes,
back in 2016.
Yes.
It's a continuous commitment and contribution to this project. Tell us more about the Loan Foundation and what motivated you to do that.
Well, the motivation, as you will recognize, Loan is the name of my mother. It was the nickname of my mother that was named Dao Thi Cook. She named herself Loan. It was in memory of my mother, because her wish, her deepest wish, was always to give something back to Vietnam. It was her homeland, and she loved her homeland very much. And when she spent her time, her life in France, she didn't have the opportunity to help much. And so I promised to her that one day, if I am the one that is able to do something like this, I would do it.
How long did it take you to build the school?
Half a year, 6 months.
Half a year?
Yeah.
Very fast.
After 6 months, we had the boarding house that was equipped. with ventilation and tiles and beds and blankets. And after that, I thought it's impossible for me to stop now. I saw so much kindness in the Vietnamese people, children, the hope, you know, in the parents' eyes, in the grandparents' eyes. I said, I cannot stop now. I have to continue. I have to manage my foundation in order to find donors, in order to create new projects. I want to continue doing it because I love it. Yeah. I love it very much.
Xin Cái is located at an altitude of 1,523 meters in an area that's difficult to access in Hà Giang province, northern Vietnam. Surveying the local and primary school, Isabel Muller and her coordinators found dilapidated classrooms and toilets. Students whose homes are far away from school had to live here to ensure their safety. They lacked well-built classrooms, but they didn't have enough beds, blankets, and toilets either. In June 2016, Isabel and her team worked with the local authority to plan and launch a project in Hà Giang's Xin Cái Primary School to build a dormitory. Xin Cái Primary School was completed after 6 months of hard work and determination. This was the first project of the Loan Foundation, but it has brought tremendous joy for students. For Isabel and her team, doing meaningful work like this has made them truly happy.
So after that very first school, built in 6 months, what next? Tell me about the other projects.
In the meanwhile, 6 years have passed by. In May this year, the Loan Foundation, Cui Loan, has been working always in Vietnam in those areas, and we have been handing over the 20 years building. I mean, I'm talking about boarding schools or kindergartens or primary schools, secondary schools, and we have built till now 3 two-floor buildings. I mean, these are really big and strong buildings for each 160 children minimum, with canteen and sanitary facilities and kitchen and whatever they need. You know, this is why we make the survey, in order to be sure to check what they really need. And so we have been constructing 20 buildings till now, and it was a investment volume about €1 million.
1 million euros.
Yeah.
So among the projects that you've launched, which one left the most impression in you, or which one that you faced the most challenge?
Oh, yeah. Concerning the emotion, I think it was project number 2. I think in Ban Chang, it was a sub-school. We built a kindergarten and primary school in a very remote area of Hà Giang province. There was one moment that moved me very much. It was during the very simple handover. Everybody was happy, and you know, we inaugurated this new building, and there was a grandmother carrying her grandson, and she came to me with tears in her eyes, and she thanked me, and this was a moment that I would never forget. So this was concerning the emotion, and concerning what was the toughest project. It was also in Hà Giang province, in Ban Pho. We had to build a kindergarten and a primary school on the top of a mountain. They said by foot or by motorcycles, we will carry the whole construction material there. And it took us 1 year. 1 year where these workers, women and men, were down at the village. The women were packing the sand in big bags, and the men carried each bag of sand and each stone, each rock. I mean, these were rocks like this, and they carried like 4 or 5 rocks on the motorcycle behind and in front of them, and they drove continuously to the top of the mountain in order to build bit by bit this building. And the commune, the locals contributed a lot. Women, even pregnant women, were happy to help. They just helped digging the earth and preparing the construction site. So it was like such an enthusiasm, you know, in their eyes. They were sweating, they were working hard, but they were happy.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most difficult projects we had to realize.
Wow, I can't imagine bringing each piece of rock, climbing
each piece
the
of rock.
slopes. Yeah.
And it lasted 1 year. So it was very impressive, and I was so proud of these young people.
Yeah, and congratulations
thank you.
on you and the team for finishing such a very challenging project.
Yeah.
Muddy routes where one would surely struggle to walk. Remote areas facing several difficulties. Despite all challenges, the Luan Foundation team has arrived to survey the areas and help people build schools, providing children with a better environment to live and study. The Luan Foundation, or Luan Stiftung in German, is a private charity founded on the 9th of May 2016 by the author Isabel Muller. The foundation's goal is to help Vietnamese children living in poverty improve their lives. The Luan Foundation operates mainly in northern Vietnam with several support programs for children and adolescents, especially those living in Hà Giang, Cao Bằng and Sơn La. Over the past 6 years, the Luan Foundation have had a total of 40 projects. Of them, 20 projects have been completed and handed over. In total, these projects received about 1 million euros from donors. The projects focus on building schools, facilities and libraries and giving away books with hopes that young people can acquire knowledge to build a better future for themselves. These meaningful activities are the way Isabel Muller gives back to her homeland Vietnam through the Luan Foundation. She considers these works her sense of happiness. In the words of French writer André Gide, the secret of happiness lies not in possessing, but in giving. By making others happy, we shall be happier ourselves.
You already said what motivated you to establish the Luan Foundation. Now, after 6 years, looking back, how does the Luan Foundation mean to you?
It means a lot. My mother told me when I was a young child, she said, one day, if you yourself, you have enough, if your family has enough too, if they have enough money to live, there is no lacking of anything, and if they are educated, this is the point for you. It should be the point for you to give something back to society. Because what you have, you cannot take it with you when you go, you know, when you pass away. It just stays there. Doing charity, something good from the bottom of your heart, is something very nice that makes me every day happy. Leading a foundation is a lot of work, I agree, but I love it. And so it is not work to me, it is pleasure. I enjoy every day what I am doing. I regret going to bed in the evening, and I can't wait until the morning is coming because I have so many things to do.
Yeah, we are talking about the figure, the mother figure in your life and your work. And because of all of the memory that you had with her, you decided to write a book featuring her, and the book is named Luan, From the Life of a Phoenix.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm very curious about the name of the book. Can you explain it a little bit?
Yes. Well, Luan was her nickname. My mother used to fall in love when she was young with a Vietnamese man. And she was betrayed. She loved the symbol of a phoenix because she knew that a phoenix will always be alive, and it doesn't matter how many times it dies. It will always be reborn. Out of the suffering, out of the fire. She was very desperate at this time because she was considered as a prostitute at this time. You must, you know, the women's rights were not the same as the rights of the women today. And now it is more usual to see young girls raising up children by themselves. But at this time, it was a shame.
Yeah.
And so she decided to raise this child by herself alone, and the name was suitable. And unfortunately, this little girl died pretty early as a baby. And my mother decided to rename herself. She said, I will be the phoenix for her, in order to always remember that doesn't matter what happens in life, I will always stand up and overcome.
Right.
And this is what my mother taught me. I am responsible for my life, not she. Surviving and learning how to get out of the struggles can be learned. I have been desperate a few times in my life. You know, 2 times in my life I wanted to commit suicide. I was ready to die. Yeah. And so I overcame that. And I understood the next lesson. And this is something, an experience I want to give to the others, so that they can learn, you know, that even if a situation seems desperate in your life, there is always a solution.
Right.
You just have to think how to get out of it, change your focus. And I think, because I think that we are guided by universe, if you really ask the right question and ask for help, the universe will always help you.
Inspired by stories told by her mother, Loan, whose real name is Đậu Thị Cúc, Isabel Muller spent over a year researching Vietnam's history and geography, and another 2 years to complete her book, Loan from the Life of a Phoenix.
My mother was here many decades ago.
So many emotions fill my heart while I am standing on the historical bridge that connects 2 parts of Mother's memories.
The book tells the story of Loan, a Vietnamese woman seeking to make a life for herself, escaping feudalism, wars, and discrimination. In the book, readers will find many lights of hope on her dark, rocky path, friendships, the value of promises, her nostalgia and love for her homeland Vietnam, and her incredible strength. All of these have helped her move forward to continue to live and finally have a happier life. Publishing Loan from the Life of a Phoenix wasn't an easy journey for the author. German publishing houses refused to back her book because the main character was not a celebrity. It took a lot of persuasion for the book to finally be published. It was quickly received well by German readers and became an Amazon bestseller in several categories. It was one of 5 books shortlisted for the Kindle Storyteller, the German Self-Publishing Award in 2015. The book was translated to several languages, including a Vietnamese version published in 2018.
During your research and investigation to write Loan, you must have learned a lot about Vietnam, right?
Yes, I have learned more. Yes, well, I had learned a bit when I visited Vietnam with my mother in the 90s. I discovered my roots. I could feel that I feel like a fish in the water. You know, like it was like, here I feel myself very well. It is part of me. I could feel it already.
You talked about how your mom embed the memory and the image of Vietnam to you when you were a young kid.
Yes.
Yeah. How did she do that? Maybe through lullaby or
she was
small
singing
tales?
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, she loved singing. She had some Vietnamese friends that had given her some tapes with the Vietnamese music. Like, I don't know, you will know Ca Trù music, music, because my mother also used to sing in a theater a few months when she was a young girl. She could sing very well. And yes, she sang many songs and always started her stories like, in my homeland Vietnam, all the people smile. Yeah, and it was always the same thing. She cooked really well Vietnamese food, so all the 5 children can cook also pretty well Vietnamese food. All the dishes, she told us about the smell of the earth of the air, about the colors that you will never find in Europe.
Did you feel that she deeply in love with the country, Vietnam?
Of course.
Yeah.
She never really felt home in France. I must say that she had a place, her house, where we grew up, and she had a big garden. Her garden and the plants, the nature, were for her a sake. It was a rescue. It was something that reminded her of her home country, and especially the botanical garden in the city of Tours, with all those exotic plants and trees, made her feel like home. She was missing a lot her homeland, Vietnam. Yes.
Walking down her mother's memory lane, Isabel Muller was always impressed with the way Loan, her mother, reminisced about simple things from her homeland that she has kept in the deepest part of her soul. It wasn't until much later that Isabel could understand that. When she was little, their mother took Isabel and her siblings to the French Botanic Garden several times.
My mother loved. When she could, she used to come as often as possible to visit this place, because it was a natural place, a lot of flowers and plants, and especially the exotic plants reminded her of her home country, Vietnam. This is why she loved to spend a few hours here. And with us children, she showed us the plants and the trees of her home country, and she was very happy to spend a few minutes and hours with us. They planted a few banana trees here in this botanical garden. Of course, these are new ones. My mother told me the story of her father that used to cut the bamboo trees like this in her home country, Vietnam. So it was a piece of her home country to touch the bamboo again. Today I touch this tree, but maybe 50, 60 years ago, my mother was here and also touched this tree. So the tree will always remember us.
So you were a child and you witnessed how your mom, lived and fought her way to be recognized.
Yes.
Yeah. So how did you think about her and her journey and what you get from that?
Yeah, I was so proud of her. I am still proud of her. She is the one that I would look up, because she would always smile. She would never carry her sorrows or burden or suffering outside. She would always encounter you with a smile and with energy. Because she considered her experiences like lessons, and it was done. The lessons was learned, and I was so proud of her when sometimes things happen, like she would wear with very proudly her aosai. My mother loved wearing aosai when she was going to the city, because she was a classy woman. I must say she was beautiful to me. Of course, she was very small, 1.45 m, but she wore every time her aosai so proudly, and it made me feel that identity was so important for her.
So when you first came to the publisher and asked them to publish the book about Loan, and then they turned you down, right?
Yes. In fact, 14,000 people read it, and I reached really quickly the final. Yeah, so it was a big honor to, as a not very famous author, not VIP, not very important person like politicians or whoever that has a big name, like in the showbiz.
Yeah.
I didn't have that name yet, so it was a big honor to reach the final, because over 1,000 people, authors, had sent their manuscript there, and I was the one with my book, Loan, that reached it. And so it was okay.
Yeah. So now let's talk about the second book, the book about you and your biography. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about the reason why you wrote the second book? You also had to go through a lot of emotions and turmoils and facing the past when you wrote the second book, when you wrote about your story.
Yeah, it was easy. Yeah, for me, I didn't even shed a tear, not one.
Why so?
Because it's my life. I have overcome all the challenges, and it is part of the past. No regrets, nothing. Yeah, it's done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are the purposes of revealing all of the pain, although you overcame and you could look straight to it without
the purpose,
tears?
in fact, I wanted to be as authentic as possible. I wanted to share my story without intention of showing to people how to be strong or whatever. I just told my story. It is good, of course. After that, I noticed that my story had a big, enormous impact even in German society. I didn't expect it, because the book was published in 2009, and in 2010, after I had done many, many lectures, and after I had been in many newspapers, magazine, TV, radio, because it was a shock. Wow, oh my God, somebody dares to talk about this subject.
Even in Germany, it was a taboo at that time.
Yeah. Okay. The media wanted to concentrate their focus on the subject sexual abuse. And I said, okay, it is part of my life, but it is not my life. It is only a lesson. It is part of it. I want to share with you the way I became this person, the person you see now in front of you, somebody that is self-confident, somebody that is open-minded, creative, strong, and I describe you what I have been experiences, and I am glad if it helps you.
Right.
I am not a teacher, to show you now you do this, this, this. No, read my story. I'm happy if it helps you. Yeah. And so it was in Germany in 2010, just like half a year after I started saying some victims, open up your mouth, change it.
Right.
And in 2010 in Germany, it was such a big movement. The victims and the people started talking about that. They all came up out of the holes, and it was amazing to see how many people were concerned about that.
And the important thing is your book inspired them to take action.
Oh yes, they did. Yeah.
Phoenix Daughter, Hope is My Way is Isabel Muller's second book. It tells the story of an outstanding woman with Vietnamese blood running through her veins, who refuses to be overwhelmed by misfortune, who masters life, and in the end, despite all the blows of fate, becomes a successful entrepreneur in Germany. With a clear message, from every stone thrown down on our feet, we will build a new part of our own. Isabel Muller overcame situations in which many others might have given up. The youngest child of a Vietnamese woman and a French man, she grew up in poor conditions in the confines of a French village. Her father was a sadist, and she was raised in a heavily racist environment. However, she inherited from her Vietnamese mother the will to live and the courage to keep moving forward. The book was published in Vietnam in March 2022.
So after finishing the second book about your biography, in the book you also mentioned you traveled back to Vietnam with your mom in 1990. That trip meant a lot to you and your mom.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us how does it mean to your mom and how did it mean to you?
Well, to my mom, it was not, of course, the first to breathe the air, the warm, humid air of her homeland. It was like, I always like to compare it with a fish without water. You know, it was like the fish just kept the small air in the lungs and waits until it comes back to the water. It was something like this, the same feeling. She was home.
Right.
She was home. And she started being active, you know, she couldn't wait until she would meet her brother, you know. She was really excited about that. She was happy. She showed me the few places as well in Hanoi as in Ho Chi Minh City, the names of the streets, the places she had been, the cathedral, the temple where she had prayed before she left Vietnam, and so on. She showed me all these places and described me the scenes here, that happened and this happened. So for her, it was a very emotional moment, important moment in her life. And I could see the happiness. Yeah, I had made her happy. And for me, of course, I was curious because I am half Vietnamese, and I wanted to know more about all the things she had told me, you know, how it was.
So after all of those years, and now you grow up to be a more mature woman, do you find there are many similarities between you and your mom?
Well, yes, these similarities have always been there. Through the challenges I had to face and go through, the way I solved my problems or our problems was the same way she would have solved it. And sometimes she said, I would have done exactly the same. And so I knew that we are very similar.
Yeah.
And she told me that a few times. I think I really don't look Vietnamese, but inside I am almost totally like her. I would say 99%. I have my Vietnamese soul.
Isabelle Muller was born on the 25th of May, 1964 in Tours in France, as the youngest of 5 children of a Vietnamese mother and a French father. She grew up in poor conditions in the confines of a French village. After graduating from high school, she studied languages including German, English and Russian at the François Rabelais University in Tours, France, and at the Centre d'études practice de langue vivante in Tours, France as well. From 1985, she worked in Germany as an interpreter and translator. With her mother, Đậu Thị Cúc, called Loan, she traveled to Southeast Asia in the 1990s and got to know her Vietnamese roots and the stories related to them. Writing books about the story of her mother's life is one way for Isabelle Muller to share her family's legacy and bring her mother closer to her homeland, Vietnam.
I want to ask more questions about your biography.
Yes.
How long did it take you to write it?
2 years.
2 years. You mentioned in the book about the power of forgiveness.
Yes.
Yeah, and to be able to let go and to touch the floor.
Yes.
You somehow need to know how to forgive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a difference. When you say something to somebody that suffered a lot, that the person should forgive, they said, but I cannot forgive, I cannot forget. And this is the point. Of course, me too, I do not forget. I will never forget, because if you forget, then the lesson was useless. But try to forgive. So it is making your life much more easier.
So going through all of that, up and downs, now how do you define happiness?
Happiness is awareness of all the good things surrounding you. It can be having a nice person in front of me. It can be being invited here. It can be the bird singing outside on the street. It can be a nice gesture of someone. It can be a smile. It is happiness. Little things, not the big things.
Right. And in the book, in the last chapter, maybe I should not spoil it too much, another dark period came.
Yes, yes.
Not from childhood anymore, but when you are already, grown-up women.
Yes.
Yeah, and your child got eye cancer.
Yeah.
And a few days later, you got also news from your husband that he got cancer too.
Yeah.
So, how did you feel at that time?
It's a challenge. Yeah. Of course, I had during this period that was going on like 1.5 till 2 years long, where I had to be the nurse, really doing the job of a nurse. I knew how to clean the catheter that was inside and give shots and give medical things, and spend my days and nights at hospital. So it was a tough time. I had moments where I also felt desperate. How can I do it? Because it's a lot. It's a lot, to take the responsibility of giving them happiness and good thoughts. I mean, our child was the only child coming to hospital, to the oncology department, singing and dancing. Here's my finger, take my blood and do it quickly.
Yeah.
She was like this. I mean, you can imagine. All the other children were really getting chemotherapy, and they were suffering a lot. But our child also got it, many times. And but she was happy child. She was a sunshine. She is a sun still now. She is a sunshine kid.
Yeah.
And this is the strength that I try to give them, the positive energy, like everything will be good.
Children have always been a source of inspiration for writer Isabel Muller. Her book Hip Hop in the Land of Elsevier, first released in 2001, became a beacon of hope for kids who had lost their beloved pets. 20 years later, the book is still worth picking up, but this time it sends an even bigger message to kids that even when you have reason to despair, you should never give up hope.
At this time, 20 years ago, it got pretty famous with the therapists because the therapist taking care of young children suffering from having been separated from family members needed books in order to get some comfort. So this book at this time was very welcome. The message is to help comforting children that are suffering from being separated from relatives, and especially in this after the pandemic. I think this is a very important book for those children who have to be comforted and have to learn how to cope with a difficult situation.
The book was introduced to young Vietnamese readers at its launch in June 2022. Soon after, it began stimulating kids' sensory awareness and gave them a way to understand some of life's biggest issues, as there are not many children's books on the topics of saying goodbye, mourning and death.
Hình minh họa rất dễ thương và giữa tình bạn chú bò chết và chú chó nó rất là đẹp. Con rút ra là không được quá buồn khi mà một thứ quan trọng hoặc là người thân của bạn mất đi, và phải biết trân trọng những thứ mình đang có.
I think that the child inside myself has never died. I still have many thoughts like children, and I always try to put myself in the situation of children. How do children think? What do they feel? And so it is very easy for me. And I have a big imagination, so I thought, illustrating this book, how would I like to see this wonderful world of Elsevier?
The author will donate all her earnings from Hip Hop in the Land of Elsevier to the Loan Foundation to help disadvantaged children in Vietnam have better lives.
So, and now you are working on a new book for children.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the book.
Hip hop, yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised because after the first two books, it's a heavy subject.
Yeah.
And, and now you are doing this for children.
Yes.
Tell us more about it.
I live in a small mountainous village in Germany. And in the neighborhood, there was a young girl that lost her dog. And she loved the dog very much, and she was really grieving. and nobody could really help her. So she stopped eating and was crying all time. And I had the idea to create this story to comfort her, and because I have also good fantasy and I love drawing, and so I wrote this story pretty quickly and with a subject because I wanted to I wanted to buy her a book about subjects like grieving for her age, and there was no book. And I said, wow, it's a pity because it would be necessary. Everybody in the neighborhood was worrying about her. And so I said, okay, there is no book, I will make one. And so I wrote this story and I illustrated this, and she came every day to see the next drawing and bit by bit. And when the book was finished, she was very, very happy. I hope it will make many, many young readers happy, especially some children that I know I have heard about the COVID situation in Vietnam. You have lots of children that lost their relatives and family members. And I think it is nice for them. It's a small comfort to tell them everything is okay and they are doing well.
And we have arrived to the end of our program today. Is there anything you want to add or message to the audience?
I am very happy if the Vietnamese readership will love my books and share their emotions in the media, and I would be very happy if the Vietnamese people also support our work for the charity work we do in the mountainous areas to support the children. They can do it in different ways. They can donate money if they want, or they can also donate books or support our projects. They can have a look at the projects online on the website. This would be a big help and also make me happy.
Thank you so much. And we wish you all the best for your future upcoming projects, whether if it's writing, it's book releasing, or it's the charity, the fund, Loan Foundation. And I hope that you would bring more hope to more people. Just like you said, hope is your way.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that has wrapped up this edition of Talk Vietnam with Isabel Mueller, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and find and read her books. So goodbye for now, and see you again next time.